Faculty Forum. I'm Sylvia Alls, and with me is Miss Walker.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me today.
No problem.
So how long have you been working at Savannah State University?
I started as a temporary instructor in 2006, so 6 years.
6 years. Wow, that's been quite some time. So how have you enjoyed working here at Savannah State?
I really like this job. It's one of those things where you get to do your craft and mesh it with education, so it's really exciting. And since you have students coming in and out, it's one of those things you never get bored with your job. So
Okay,
I love it.
that's good. So where did you attend college, and what was your major?
Well, I'm a bit of a nerd, so let's start. I started at Georgia Southern University and I actually majored in communication arts with a theater minor. Then I went to grad school and got my MFA at SCAD in media and performing arts. And now I'm working on my PhD with Capella University in leadership and higher education.
Okay, that's wonderful. It's good. So, did you always know that you wanted to be an actor?
No. I wanted to be a teacher, a fashion designer. I wanted to do everything under the sun. I finally decided on acting because I felt like, well, I can pretend to be all those things I really wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm an adult now, I go through seasons where I'm like, I should go back to school and be a doctor, or I should go back to school and do this. So I guess with acting, it kind of keeps me in everything.
Okay, so how long have you been acting?
I started my ninth grade year in high school. I did it as a favor. One of my English teachers begged me to do it. So I did it not really having an interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got bit by the bug then, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, that's great. So, let's see what else. What is your favorite thing about acting?
I think with acting, it's just exciting to get a new role because once you have a new role, you have the opportunity to research and study
Mm-hmm.
and kind of get thrown into this life that's unlike yours, and you kind of get to make decisions that you would never make. So it's kind of like pretend as a grown up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I like that aspect. So I can be anything I want to be, and I can react any way I want to, and it not
Okay.
be a reflection of me personally.
Okay, well, thank you for answering those questions. Right now, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Faculty Forum. Again, with me is Professor Walker. So right now we're just asking a few questions about your acting and what you enjoy most about it. So, what was the last play that you were in?
I did a production here with a guest director where I was in African Medea, and I actually played the lead character, Medea.
Okay, how was that?
It was really intimidating. I do a
Mhm.
lot of acting in the community and outside of Savannah, but acting in front of your students for some reason seems to be a little bit more intimidating because you're trying to remember to do all the things you tell them to do and not to do the things you warn them about. And as an instructor, you want to be a perfect example when you're doing your craft rather than just teaching one thing and doing another. So it was a little nerve-wracking, but
Okay.
fun nonetheless.
Okay, so was that the biggest role that you've ever had to play?
Not necessarily the biggest role, but probably the hardest, because if you know the story of Medea, it's a Greek tragedy where you have a woman who kills her children in order to get back at her husband. So definitely some depth as a mother trying to find a character and justification to stabbing your children when that's not
Mm-hmm.
something you would normally do. So it was definitely the hardest to get into character and the hardest for me to justify.
Okay, so do you have certain, I guess you could say, rituals that you go through to get into character?
I'm definitely one of those actors who can't talk to anyone before I perform, and my students kind of got a taste of that. The ones who were in African Medea with me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anyone talking to me. I don't like a lot of laughter or side conversations. Normally, because I'm trying to get into the head of that character, so it takes me focusing on the things that affect their life directly, which means I don't need my life infiltrating that thought process. So I'm definitely one of those that sits in a corner quietly,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't talk to anyone if I'm backstage. I'm not one of those actors who can say hi to you and get back into it. I'm definitely tunnel vision actor, so I probably come across as rude when I'm on stage, but it's just a matter of me focusing.
That's good. Nothing rude. It's apparent you take your work very seriously, so
Definitely.
that's a good thing. Now you've been in plays. You've mentioned that. Have you ever done any roles in film?
I've done a few independent films. I really hate film. And that's really weird because it's connected to theater, it's definitely connected to my communications background.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, it's just hard for me to take that character and bring that character to life because with theater, you're so much bigger
Mm-hmm.
and you get to go in the order of the play versus in film. My first film, the first day, the first second of filming, they're asking you to have a mental breakdown and you don't get to work up to it. So it's very uncomfortable for me. And film and theater definitely have the same ingredients but different amounts. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely bigger, louder. So when
Mm-hmm.
I come to film, I find myself having to be timid and it
Right.
makes me really nervous.
Okay, so would you, if given the opportunity, would you ever take your career to Hollywood?
Well, I definitely have agents who look for me work, and I've auditioned for a bunch of big feature films.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I want. I just do it to kind of stay on top of my training.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, I would do a movie, but it's definitely not something I'm actively pursuing.
Okay. Now, I know that you are part of Players by the Sea.
Hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, I'm the advisor of the student organization Players by the Sea. It's a little different than other student organizations because we're connected to the academic program. And what we do is we present the actual plays on campus. Our main stage plays, I also allow the students to do their own things.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, I have my students like to do a lot of open mics and they may do cabarets to showcase their talent. And then we mesh it with the actual main stage production so that students have an opportunity to present theater in a professional manner so they know once they graduate from here how things really run backstage versus it being kind of nonchalant and casual.
Okay. So, how big are these? How big are the turnouts for the plays that you guys
Well,
put on?
in Kennedy Auditorium, which is where we do a lot of our main stage productions, we hold over 250 in
Mm-hmm.
that space, and we're usually sold out for a couple of the nights. Depending on the production, I've had to turn people away. When I directed for Colored Girls,
Mm.
I had to turn away a lot of people. With Jitney, I had to turn away. So if it's a play that a lot of people have heard of
Mm-hmm.
and they know the title, then you can always guarantee a packed house.
Okay. Now, I heard about the play Jitney, and I
Hmm.
heard it went very well. How was it for the students to get into character with that play?
I think it was a little work for them. The play takes place in the 70s, and
Mm-hmm.
my students are very much, students of 90s and 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to learn how you would react in that time period and how in that time period you maybe wouldn't do such physical mannerisms as you do now. So for my men, which is a majority male cast, it was really hard for them to understand what was typical of that time period to include
Mm-hmm.
the entertainment of that time period. So I really had them studying kind of the old television shows like Good Times
Mm-hmm.
and some of the black exploitation films, which was definitely hard because everything's over dramatic. If
Mm-hmm.
you know Good Times, and so it was definitely hard for them, but they grew tremendously, and I was very proud of them.
Well, that's good. Good to hear. Good for them too.
Yeah.
So can any student join Players by the Sea?
Definitely. And you can join Players by the Sea, the organization. and just come to our meetings. We have weekly meetings every Tuesday at 5 p.m. in our black box. Or if you're just interested in auditioning for the plays, I do allow our auditions to be open so anyone in Savannah can audition. And the reason I do that is I want my students to feel challenged. I don't want anyone becoming a big fish in a small pond and not stay on top of their craft. And I really want them to feel if you receive a role in one of my plays, you've earned that role. It's not one of those things you're the only person who auditioned for that role. You were the best out of the people who auditioned. So by me opening the auditions, it kind of keeps everyone a little more focused, and it kind of keeps my students working hard for their goal.
Okay, that's good. So with the plays that, or the roles that the students are given throughout their collegiate years at Savannah State University, would you say that that better prepares them for their career in theater?
Definitely. One thing I did upon teaching here is I made sure that we pick plays that cover a plethora of genres. So we have the black plays, which my students tend to love, but we also do the Greek plays, the tragedies, the comedies. We do Shakespeare. So we cover every time period so that my students leave here well-rounded. No matter what genre they end up in, they will at least have experience in every genre.
Okay. Now, speaking of, all the genres that you just listed, which one happens to be your favorite to work with?
I love tragedies, Greek tragedies. Greek tragedies to me are like modern day soap operas. Nowhere else will you find, over the top reactions such as an Oedipus gouging your eyes out, or over the top scenarios where, someone is a witch and they're killing someone else and cutting up their brother and doing these rituals or making dresses that melt flesh off you. These are over the top old school soap operas, and I love that, episodic structure where it's a lot going on all of the time.
Great. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. And we're back with Faculty Forum with Professor Walker. Now, before we wrap up the show, just a couple more questions. Now, what is your favorite thing about working here at Savannah State University?
I really think Savannah State University has a group of raw talent. And that's a wonderful thing when you have a group of students who maybe haven't experienced everything about theater, but they're eager to learn. And the good thing is when you have a new canvas, you don't have to worry about correcting mistakes. So with my students, I have, fairly new students who are fairly new to theater, and they're just interested in learning, so they soak it all in. So that's definitely a plus, and they have that raw talent. So ultimately, I'm teaching them how to channel their talent and teaching them technique, which is the fun part. You can't teach someone how to be talented. So we do have that talent, which I'm very grateful for.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to come out here and answer these questions. Again, I'm Sylvia Alls reporting to you from Faculty Forum, signing off.